Oh my God, this is too good! My sister's voice carried across the backyard full of 37 relatives. Listen to this one. I dreamed about Mitchell again last night. We were walking on a beach in Hawaii, and he told me he loved me. When I woke up, I could still feel his hands in my hair. My blood turned to ice. She was reading from my diary, my private, personal diary that contained my deepest thoughts about the pilot I was falling for. Oh, but wait! Jessica continued, her voice getting louder as more people gathered around her. It gets better. I think I'm ready to tell Mitchell yes. Not just to dating, but to everything. I've never felt this way about anyone. Sometimes I imagine what our wedding would look like, or what our kids might look like with his green eyes and my smile. The crowd erupted in laughter. Someone said, "Sarah's got it bad." Another voice added, "Poor girl, living in a fantasy world." That was the moment everything changed. Standing there in my parents' backyard, watching my own sister turn my most private thoughts into entertainment for our entire family, I made a decision that would transform my life forever. 6 months later, I was living in a stunning apartment overlooking Dubai Marina, married to that same pilot from my diary, earning 3 times my old salary with Emirates Airlines. And Jessica? She was learning what it felt like when the sister she'd humiliated was no longer there to bail her out of every financial crisis. But let me back up and tell you how this really started. My name is Sarah, and at 25, I thought I had built a pretty good life working as a flight attendant for Delta Airlines. I got to see the world while helping people, and despite the crazy hours and aching feet, I loved making nervous flyers feel safe and watching kids' faces light up when I gave them their first set of wings. My 1-bedroom apartment in Atlanta wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I paid my own bills, sent money home when mom needed help with groceries, and even managed to save a little each month. The only real stress in my life came from my younger sister, Jessica. At 23, Jess still lived at home, working part-time at a nail salon when she felt like it. Mom and Dad treated her like she was made of glass, always making excuses for why she couldn't hold down a full-time job or move out on her own. "Jess is still finding herself," Mom would say whenever I asked why my sister got a free pass while I'd been expected to support myself since 18. Finding herself. Right. What Jess had found was that our parents would baby her forever if she just played helpless enough. But family is family, so I kept my mouth shut and tried to be supportive. When Jess needed money for her car payment, I sent it. When she wanted someone to vent to about her latest workplace drama, I listened. And when I needed someone to talk to about my own problems, well, that's where my diary came in. I'd been keeping journals since high school. Nothing fancy, just spiral notebooks where I could write down my thoughts after long flights, work through relationship problems, or dream about my future. I kept them in a shoebox under my bed, and I'd never told anyone about them. They were my private space, my way of processing everything from work stress to family frustrations to the loneliness that sometimes hit me when I came home to an empty apartment after being surrounded by people for 12 hours straight. The diary I was working on that fall was almost full. I'd written about my crush on Captain Mitchell Reeves, a pilot I'd been flying with for 8 months. Mitchell was everything I found attractive, confident but not arrogant, funny without trying too hard, and professional in a way that made me feel safe 30,000 feet in the air. He was 32, divorced with no kids, and had these incredible green eyes that crinkled when he smiled. I'd also written about how frustrated I was with Jess, how tired I was of watching my parents enable her while expecting me to have my life completely together. I'd written about feeling invisible sometimes, like the responsible daughter who never got praised because doing the right thing was just expected from me. Most importantly, I'd written about the secret I'd been keeping for 2 months. Mitchell had asked me out. Not just once, but several times. We'd grabbed coffee between flights, shared meals during layovers, and texted almost every day. 3 weeks earlier, during a 2-day layover in Paris, he'd kissed me for the first time outside a little cafe near our hotel. "I know dating crew members isn't exactly professional," he'd said, holding my hands, "but I can't stop thinking about you, Sarah. You're not like anyone I've ever met." I was falling for him hard, but I was also scared. Workplace relationships were complicated, especially in aviation where your personal life could affect entire flight crews. I needed time to think, so I'd been writing through my feelings in my diary while we continued our careful dance around each other. The weekend of my cousin Emma's engagement party, I drove home to stay with my parents. It was going to be a big celebration. My mom's side of the family hadn't all been together in 2 years, and everyone was excited to meet Emma's fiancé. I packed my diary in my overnight bag without thinking twice about it. I'd gotten into the habit of writing before bed, and I didn't want to break my routine. Saturday morning, I helped Mom prepare food while Jess painted her nails and complained about having to socialize with boring family members. I bit my tongue when she made a snide comment about Aunt Linda's weight gain, and again when she rolled her eyes at having to help carry folding chairs to the backyard. Just get through today, I told myself. Tomorrow, you'll be back in your own space. The party started at 2, and by 3:30, our backyard was full of cousins, aunts, uncles, and family friends. Emma looked radiant, showing off her ring, and her fiancé seemed genuinely nice. I was having a good time catching up with relatives I hadn't seen in months, helping serve food, and playing with my little cousin Tyler. That's when I noticed people staring at me. At first, I thought maybe I had food on my dress or something in my teeth, but the stares felt different, knowing, almost pitying. My cousin Rachel avoided eye contact when I tried to talk to her. Uncle Bob kept glancing at me and whispering to his wife. Then I heard the snickering. "Oh my God, this is too good," Jess's voice carried across the yard. She was standing near the patio table with 3 of our cousins, holding something in her hands. Listen to this one. I dreamed about Mitchell again last night. We were walking on a beach in Hawaii, and he told me he loved me. When I woke up, I could still feel his hands in my hair. My blood turned to ice. She was reading from my diary. My private, personal diary that I'd left in my room that morning. "Oh, but wait," Jess continued, her voice getting louder as more people gathered around her. "It gets better. I think I'm ready to tell Mitchell yes, not just to dating, but to everything. I've never felt this way about anyone. Sometimes I imagine what our wedding would look like, or what our kids might look like with his green eyes and my smile." The group around her erupted in laughter. Someone said, "Sarah's got it bad." Another voice added, "Poor girl, living in a fantasy world." I felt like I was going to throw up. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not in front of everyone, not with my most private thoughts being turned into entertainment. "Jess." My voice came out as a whisper. I cleared my throat and tried again. "Jess, stop." She looked up at me with this satisfied smirk that I'd never seen before. "Oh, hey, Sarah. We were just learning about your imaginary boyfriend. Captain Mitchell, right? The one you're planning to marry and have babies with?" She flipped through more pages. "Should I read the part where you describe your first kiss, or skip to the part where you're mad at Mom and Dad for babying poor Jessica?" The entire party had gone quiet. 37 people were staring at me, waiting to see what would happen next. Some looked embarrassed for me. Others seemed to be enjoying the drama. My parents were across the yard, looking confused and concerned. "Give me my diary back. Now." I walked toward her, my hands shaking with a combination of humiliation and rage I'd never felt before. "Relax, Sarah. It's just family." Jess held the diary above her head like we were kids fighting over a toy. "Besides, this stuff is hilarious. You write like you're still in middle school. Dear Diary, I wonder if Mitchell likes me back. Grow up." That's when something inside me snapped. I'd spent years being the good daughter, the responsible sister, the one who never caused drama or demanded attention. I'd sent Jess money, listened to her problems, defended her to other family members who called her lazy. I'd kept my mouth shut about her behavior because I loved her, and I thought that's what family meant. But family wasn't supposed to humiliate you in front of everyone you cared about. Family wasn't supposed to steal your most private thoughts and turn them into a joke. "You went through my personal belongings," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You took something that didn't belong to you, and now you're reading it out loud like it's some kind of performance." Jess rolled her eyes. "God, you're so dramatic. It's just a diary, Sarah. It's not like I found state secrets or something." "Give it back." I held out my hand, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Make me—" She clutched it tighter, still smirking. "Make me," like we were children, like my pain was funny to her. I looked around at my family. My parents finally pushing through the crowd, my cousins looking uncomfortable. Emma's fiancé probably wondering what kind of family he was marrying into. Everyone had heard my private thoughts about Mitchell, my feelings about my parents, my frustrations with Jess herself. The humiliation was complete. But as I stood there watching my sister enjoy my embarrassment, I realized something important. I was done being the victim in this relationship. You know what, Jess? Keep it. I turned to address the crowd. I'm sorry everyone had to witness this. I'm going to head home now. I walked into the house with as much dignity as I could manage, grabbed my purse and keys, and drove back to Atlanta. I didn't stay to help clean up, didn't say goodbye to the relatives I'd been excited to see, didn't even wait for my parents to ask what they could do to fix this. That night, alone in my apartment, I cried harder than I had since my grandmother died. Not just because of the humiliation, but because of what it meant. My sister had deliberately hurt me in the cruelest way possible, in front of everyone I cared about, and she'd enjoyed it. But when I woke up Monday morning, something had changed. The hurt was still there, but it was accompanied by something else: determination. Jess thought she could embarrass me and get away with it because I was the good sister who never fought back. She thought I'd just take it and move on, like I always did when she hurt me. She was wrong. Over the next few days, I started paying attention to things I'd ignored before. I noticed how Jess posted constantly on social media about her glamorous nail tech life, but never mentioned that she only worked 3 days a week. I noticed how she bragged about designer purses and expensive dinners, but I knew she barely made enough to pay for gas. I started asking myself questions I'd never asked before. Where was Jess getting money for all these luxuries? How was she affording to go out every weekend when she complained about being broke? Why did she always have new clothes but never seem to pay our parents any rent? The answer came the following weekend when I drove home to get some belongings I'd left behind. I walked into the house to find Jess on the phone with someone, talking in a hushed voice. "Yeah, I can get you an appointment next Friday," she was saying. "It'll be $200 for the full set, but you have to pay cash and don't mention it at the salon, okay? This is just between us." I stood in the hallway listening as she arranged several more appointments. When she hung up, I confronted her. "Are you doing nails out of Mom's kitchen?" Jess jumped, clearly not expecting me to be there. "Sarah, you scared me, and no, I'm not doing anything wrong." But her defensive tone told me everything I needed to know. I started putting pieces together: the new nail lamp I'd seen in her room, the boxes of supplies in the garage that Mom said were for Jess's projects, the constant stream of people coming to the house at odd hours. My sister was running an unlicensed nail business out of our parents' home, charging clients almost as much as the salon where she officially worked, and pocketing all the money without paying taxes or carrying insurance. She was also violating her employment contract, which I was sure prohibited her from doing private work. But that wasn't even the best part. As I did more digging over the next few weeks, I discovered that Jess had been bragging online about her side hustle, posting pictures of her work and even advertising her services on Instagram and Facebook. She was using the salon's professional supplies, stealing them, essentially, and had been for months. This is it, I thought. This is how I teach her that actions have consequences. But I didn't want to just get Jess in trouble. I wanted to make a statement about who I really was, not just the quiet, responsible sister everyone took for granted. That's when I decided it was time to tell Mitchell how I felt about him. The next time we flew together, a Tuesday morning flight to Denver, I waited until we were cruising at altitude and the cabin was calm. During our break, I found him in the galley reviewing paperwork. "Mitchell, can we talk for a minute?" He looked up with that smile that had been haunting my dreams. "Of course. Everything okay?" I took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something. I've been thinking about what you said in Paris, about wanting to date despite the complications." His expression grew more serious. "And I want to say yes. Not just to dating, but to seeing where this goes. I care about you, Mitchell, more than I've cared about anyone in a long time." The smile that spread across his face was worth all the anxiety I'd been carrying. "Sarah, I was hoping you'd say that. I've been patient because I could tell you needed time, but honestly, I've been falling for you for months." We agreed to keep things professional during flights, but to spend our off time getting to know each other better. Over the next few weeks, we had dinner dates in different cities, long phone conversations between flights, and quiet moments in airport lounges where he'd hold my hand and tell me about his dreams of someday opening a charter flight business. 3 weeks after that conversation in the galley, during a layover in Dubai, Mitchell took me to dinner at an incredible restaurant overlooking the city. "Sarah," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand, "I know this is fast, and I know our situation is complicated, but I need you to know something. I'm in love with you." My heart stopped. "Mitchell." I've never felt this way about anyone. You're kind, you're strong, you're brilliant at your job, and you make me want to be a better man. I know we've only been officially dating for a few weeks, but I've been thinking about our future together. I squeezed his hand. I love you too. I have for months. That's when he surprised me. Sarah, I've been offered a position here in Dubai. It's with Emirates, running their crew training programs. It's a huge opportunity and the money is incredible, but I don't want to take it unless you'd consider coming with me. Dubai. I'd always loved our layovers here, the modern city, the incredible architecture, the mix of cultures and opportunities. And Emirates was known for treating their crew members well, with excellent benefits and housing allowances. What would I do there? I asked. Whatever you want. Emirates is always looking for experienced crew members, especially Americans who can work with international passengers. Or you could do something completely different. The point is, we'd be together, and we'd be starting fresh somewhere new. The idea was terrifying and exciting at the same time. Leave everything I knew, move halfway around the world, start over with someone I'd only been officially dating for 3 weeks. But then I thought about my family, about Jess reading my diary to 37 relatives, about being taken for granted and treated like the boring, responsible daughter who would always be there to clean up everyone else's messes. Maybe it was time to stop being so responsible. Maybe it was time to take a chance on something extraordinary. Yes, I said. I want to go with you. Mitchell's face lit up like a sunrise. Really? Really? But I need a few months to get everything sorted out here. Can you wait until after the holidays? Sarah, I'd wait forever for you. That night, as we walked along the beach near our hotel, Mitchell stopped and turned to face me. I know this is crazy, he said, but I want to ask you something. I don't have a ring, and this isn't exactly a planned proposal, but Sarah, will you marry me? I stared at him, this incredible man who was offering me a completely different life, and I realized that this was what courage felt like. Not the absence of fear, but choosing love despite the fear. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. We decided to keep our engagement quiet until after we moved to Dubai. Mitchell wanted to give me a proper proposal with a ring, and I wanted to handle my family situation on my own terms. Which brought me back to Jess. The week before Thanksgiving, I put my plan into action. I'd gathered screenshots of all her social media posts advertising her illegal nail business, photos of her setup in Mom's kitchen, and even a recording of her on the phone arranging appointments. I'd also done some research and discovered that her salon had a strict policy against employees doing outside work. It was grounds for immediate termination. But I wasn't going to turn her into her employer or report her to the IRS. That would have been satisfying, but it wouldn't teach her the lesson she needed to learn. Instead, I was going to let her hang herself. Thanksgiving was at our house again, with the same relatives who'd witnessed my humiliation a month earlier. I arrived with Mitchell, introducing him casually as my boyfriend who's visiting from out of town. I didn't make a big deal about it, just let people meet him naturally. Mitchell was perfect. He was charming without being fake, asked genuine questions about people's lives, and helped serve food without being asked. Within an hour, my relatives were telling me how lucky I was and asking how long we'd been together. A few months, I said casually, catching Jess's surprised look from across the room. She'd assumed the diary incident had scared me away from pursuing anything with him. During dinner, I waited for the right moment. It came when Jess started complaining about how hard she'd been working lately, how exhausting it was to be on her feet all day at the salon. Speaking of work, I said, I have some exciting news to share with everyone. The table went quiet, everyone looking at me expectantly. Mitchell has been offered an incredible position in Dubai, running crew training programs for Emirates Airlines, and I've decided to go with him. The silence that followed was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. Congratulations, questions about Dubai, expressions of surprise and excitement. You're moving to Dubai? Mom asked, looking stunned. In February, Mitchell and I are getting married and we're starting our new life there together. More congratulations, more questions. I watched Jess's face as she processed this information. The sister she'd humiliated and dismissed was not only dating the man from her diary, but marrying him and moving to one of the most glamorous cities in the world. Wow, Sarah, Jess said finally, her voice tight. That's sudden. Not really, Mitchell said, reaching over to squeeze my hand. I've been in love with Sarah for months. She's the most incredible woman I've ever met. Intelligent, compassionate, adventurous. I'm the lucky one. I saw several relatives exchange glances, remembering how Jess had mocked my feelings about Mitchell just a month earlier. After dinner, as people were having coffee and dessert, I found my moment for the final part of my plan. "Jess," I said, approaching her in the kitchen where she was hiding from cleanup duties, "I wanted to thank you." She looked suspicious. "Thank me for what?" "For reading my diary at Emma's party. I was so embarrassed that night, but you actually did me a favor." "I don't understand." "Well, when you read all that stuff about Mitchell out loud, it made me realize I needed to stop being scared and tell him how I felt. If you hadn't humiliated me, I might never have found the courage to be honest with him." I smiled sweetly. "So really, you're the reason we're together. You're the reason I'm moving to Dubai and starting this amazing new life." Jess stared at me, clearly trying to figure out if I was being sincere or sarcastic. "Also," I continued, "I wanted to let you know that I won't be able to help out financially anymore. Moving internationally is expensive, and Mitchell and I need to save every penny. So if you need money for car payments or rent or anything, you'll have to figure something else out." Her face went pale. "Sarah, you can't just cut me off like that." "I'm not cutting you off, I'm just not enabling you anymore. You're 23, Jess. You're smart and capable when you want to be. I'm sure you'll figure out how to support yourself. But I don't make enough at the salon to— Then maybe you should look into getting more hours, or finding additional income streams." I paused, watching her carefully. "I mean, I'm sure there are ways to make extra money if you're creative about it." She shifted uncomfortably, and I knew she was thinking about her illegal nail business. "Anyway," I continued, "I should get back to Mitchell. We have so much to plan for our move. Did I mention Emirates is giving us a beautiful apartment overlooking the marina? And the salary is incredible, almost 3 times what I make here. It's like a fairy tale, really." I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the kitchen, probably for the first time processing what it meant that her responsible, reliable sister was disappearing from her life. The rest of the evening was perfect. Mitchell charmed everyone, we got endless congratulations on our engagement and upcoming move, and I felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. As we were leaving, my cousin Emma pulled me aside. "Sarah, I'm so happy for you, and I'm sorry about what happened at my party. Jess was way out of line." "It's okay," I said. "Actually, it worked out for the best." A few days later, I got a text from Jess. "Can we talk? I think I made a mistake." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Over the next few weeks, I heard through family members that Jess was struggling. She'd asked my parents for money to cover her car payment, but they'd told her she needed to start contributing to household expenses if she wanted to keep living at home. She'd picked up extra shifts at the salon, but was complaining about being tired and stressed. I also heard that someone had reported her illegal nail business to the county health department, and she'd been forced to shut it down immediately. I had no idea who might have done such a thing. Karma, I thought. It's a beautiful thing. 2 weeks before Christmas, Mitchell and I flew to Dubai to look at apartments and finalize our job arrangements. The Emirates headquarters were stunning, and they offered me a position that was essentially a promotion from my current job, with a salary that made my Delta wages look like pocket change. We found a gorgeous 2-bedroom apartment in Dubai Marina with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. The building had a gym, a pool, and concierge services. It was the kind of place I'd only dreamed about living in. "Are you sure about this?" Mitchell asked as we stood on the balcony watching boats in the marina below. "It's a big change." I thought about my life in Atlanta, my small apartment, my complicated family dynamics, always being the responsible one who never took risks. Then I thought about the woman who'd had her private thoughts read aloud at a family party and had used that humiliation as motivation to change everything. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. We decided to get married in Dubai after we moved, with just a small ceremony and celebration dinner. My parents were disappointed they wouldn't be there, but I explained that we wanted to start our new life together in our new home. Jess didn't even get an invitation. My last day at Delta was emotional. I'd made good friends over my 3 years there, and leaving felt like closing an important chapter of my life. But I was ready for the next chapter. The night before our flight to Dubai, I did something I hadn't done in months. I wrote in my diary, "Tomorrow I start my new life with the man I love. in a city that feels like a dream. A year ago, I never could have imagined I'd have the courage to make changes this big. But sometimes the worst thing that happens to you ends up being the best thing, because it forces you to find strength you didn't know you had. Jess taught me that not everyone who calls themselves family will actually act like family. But she also taught me that I don't have to accept being treated badly just because we share DNA. I spent years being the good daughter, the responsible sister, the one who never caused problems. And where did it get me? Taken for granted and humiliated in front of everyone I cared about. I'm done being that person. I'm done making myself small so other people can feel big. I'm done accepting scraps of respect from people who should love me unconditionally. Mitchell sees me differently. He sees my strength, my ambition, my dreams. He doesn't want to change me or minimize me. He wants to build a life with me where we both get to be our best selves. Tomorrow, I become Sarah Reeves. I become a Dubai resident, an Emirates employee, a woman who chose love over fear and adventure over safety. And Jess? She gets to figure out how to support herself for the first time in her adult life. She gets to learn what it feels like when the sister she took for granted is no longer available to bail her out. I don't hate her. I actually feel sorry for her. She had someone who loved her unconditionally, who would have done anything for her, and she threw it away for 5 minutes of entertainment at a family party. But that's her loss, not mine. My gain is Mitchell, Dubai, and a future I never would have been brave enough to pursue if she hadn't pushed me to my breaking point. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes the best revenge is living so well that the person who tried to hurt you becomes irrelevant to your happiness. The flight to Dubai was perfect. Mitchell and I sat together in business class, courtesy of his new employer, and planned our wedding while flying over the Atlantic. We talked about the adventures we'd have, the places we'd travel together, the life we were building. Halfway through the flight, I got a text from my mom. Jess wants your new phone number. She says she needs to apologize for everything. I showed the message to Mitchell. What do you want to do? He asked. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to hear her apology, to see if she'd learned anything from losing me. But a bigger part of me knew that some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. I typed back, maybe someday. Right now, I'm focused on my new life. Then I turned off my phone, took Mitchell's hand, and looked out at the clouds below us. Somewhere behind us was the life I used to live, the woman I used to be. Ahead of us was everything I'd ever dreamed of, and some things I'd never dared to dream. 6 months later, I was Mrs. Sarah Reeves, living in a stunning apartment in one of the world's most dynamic cities. I loved my job with Emirates, had made incredible friends from all over the world, and was planning adventures with my husband that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. I got updates about home through my parents. Jess had finally gotten a full-time job and was slowly learning to support herself. She'd moved into a small apartment with a roommate and seemed to be growing up finally. I hoped she was happy. I really did. But I didn't need to know the details anymore because her life was no longer connected to mine in any meaningful way. That's the thing about revenge, I learned. The best kind isn't about destroying someone else. It's about refusing to let their actions define your life. It's about taking the pain they caused you and using it as fuel to build something beautiful. Jess wanted to make me small, to embarrass me, to put me in my place. Instead, she set me free to become the woman I was always meant to be. And for that, I suppose I should thank her. But I won't, because I'll probably never see her again, and that's exactly how I want it.